She dialed the number with shaking hands, her left eye already swelling shut. It was 2:47 a.m., and her husband was passed out drunk in their bedroom. The phone rang twice before a gravelly voice answered. "Sarah?" her brother said, immediately alert. "Are you okay?" She hadn't spoken to him in 7 years. 7 years since Marcus made her choose between her family and him. 7 years since she'd picked wrong. But tonight, with blood in her mouth and nowhere left to run, she whispered 3 words that would change everything. "I need help." Sarah Mitchell had been beautiful once. Not that she wasn't still attractive at 32, but there was a difference between the bright-eyed girl in her wedding photos and the hollow-eyed woman staring back from the bathroom mirror at 3 in the morning. That girl had dreams. This woman just wanted to survive until sunrise. She pressed a cold washcloth against her face, wincing at the contact. Her ribs ached where Marcus had kicked her. Her wrist throbbed where he'd twisted it. And her heart had gone numb so long ago she barely remembered what feeling anything besides fear was like. This wasn't the first time. It wasn't even the worst time. But it was the last time. She decided that tonight, lying on the kitchen floor after Marcus had stormed off to bed, listening to him snore while she bled. 7 years ago, she'd been Sarah Chun, youngest daughter of a working-class family, dating a man her older brother didn't trust. Jake had never liked Marcus from the start, said something about him was off, that the charm was too practiced, the smile too calculated. Jake was in the Iron Wolves motorcycle club, had been since he was 21, and Sarah had always thought he was overprotective, too suspicious, seeing threats everywhere because of the hard life he'd lived. So when Marcus proposed and Jake voiced concerns, Sarah had defended her fiancé. When Marcus said she had to choose between him and her dangerous biker brother, Sarah had chosen Marcus. She cut Jake out of her life, blocked his number, refused to see him at family gatherings until he stopped coming. Her parents had been heartbroken, but Sarah was in love, or what she thought was love, and Marcus was charming and successful and nothing like the rough men Jake rode with. The mask came off 3 months after the wedding. It started small. Criticism about her clothes, her friends, her job. Then it was control. Checking her phone, monitoring her location, dictating who she could see. Then came the first push, the first slap, the first time he wrapped his hands around her throat and squeezed until she saw stars. And Sarah, ashamed and trapped and convinced she deserved it, had stayed. She'd made excuses, covered bruises with makeup, told her worried parents everything was fine until they stopped asking. For 7 years, she'd been a prisoner in her own home, married to a man who smiled at neighbors and colleagues while terrorizing her behind closed doors. Tonight had been worse than usual. Marcus had come home from a business dinner drunk and angry. Some deal had fallen through. Someone had disrespected him, and Sarah had paid the price for his wounded ego. She'd endured it silently, knowing resistance made it worse. When he finally passed out, she dragged herself to the bathroom and locked the door. That's when she'd seen the old phone. She'd hidden it 2 years ago, a secret lifeline she'd never had the courage to use. It was an old flip phone, prepaid, charged once a month when Marcus was at work. And it was one number, Jake's number, unchanged in 7 years because she'd checked the Iron Wolves website once, had seen in the group photo, and memorized the contact information listed for the club. She'd never called, never reached out, never admitted she'd made a mistake choosing Marcus over family. Until tonight. The phone rang twice before Jake answered, his voice immediately alert despite the late hour. "This is Jake." "Jake!" Her voice came out broken, barely recognizable. "It's Sarah." Silence. Then, "Sarah? Jesus Christ. Sarah, where are you? Are you okay?" She started crying, the kind of crying that's been held back for years. "I need help. Please. I don't know who else to call. Where are you right now? Are you safe? I'm in the bathroom. Marcus is asleep. Jake, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't listen to you. I should have." "Stop. Don't apologize. Just tell me where you are." She gave him the address, her voice shaking so badly she had to repeat it twice. "Okay, listen to me very carefully. Lock that bathroom door. Stay there. Don't make noise. Don't let him know you called anyone. I'm coming right now, and I'm not coming alone. Understand? Okay, Sarah, I need you to be strong for about 45 more minutes. Can you do that? I think so. You can. You're a chun. We're fighters. I'm on my way. The line went dead. Sarah sat on the bathroom floor, clutching the phone, watching the clock. 2:53 a.m. 45 minutes felt like forever. In a house across town, Jake Chin was already moving. He pulled on his jeans, his club vest, his boots. His wife, Maria, sat up in bed. What's wrong? My sister finally called. Jake's voice was tight with controlled rage. He's been hurting her. Maria's hand went to her mouth. Oh my God, what are you going to do? What I should have done 7 years ago. He grabbed his phone and started making calls. The first call went to Reaper, the club president. I need the brothers. Now, my sister's in trouble. Say no more. Where? Jake gave him Sarah's address. Domestic violence situation. Her husband. I need enough people that he understands we're not asking. How many you thinking? All of them. Within 20 minutes, bikes were starting up across the city. Members who'd been asleep rolled out of bed. Members finishing late shifts cut their nights short. Members who live an hour away started riding. Because when a brother called for help protecting family, you showed up. No questions. No hesitation. Jake rode toward Sarah's address with Reaper beside him. Behind them, more bikes appeared, joining the formation. By the time they reached the suburban neighborhood where Sarah lived, there were 35 motorcycles in the convoy. It was 3:37 a.m. when they pulled onto Maple Street. The neighborhood was dead quiet, houses dark, everyone sleeping peacefully. The rumble of 35 Harleys shattered that peace like a bomb going off. Lights started turning on. Dogs started barking. Neighbors peered through curtains, confused and alarmed. Jake stopped in front of a 2-story colonial with a perfect lawn and a new BMW in the driveway. The house looked like a postcard. No one would ever guess what happened inside it. The bikers parked in formation, filling the street. They cut their engines simultaneously, and the sudden silence was almost as loud as the rumble had been. 35 men stood beside their bikes, leather vests marked with the Iron Wolves patch, arms crossed, faces hard. Jake walked up to the front door and knocked. Loud, insistent, the kind of knocking that says we're not leaving. Inside, Marcus jerked awake. What the hell? Sarah, still locked in the bathroom, heard her husband's confused cursing as he stumbled toward the front door. She held her breath. Marcus opened the door in his boxer shorts, face flushed with sleep and alcohol. Do you know what time it? He stopped. His face went pale. Standing on his porch was a man about his age, Asian, wearing a leather vest that said Iron Wolves MC across the back. Behind him, filling the entire street, were 34 more men dressed identically, standing beside motorcycles, every single one of them staring at Marcus with expressions that made his blood run cold. Marcus Fletcher? Jake's voice was calm, dangerously calm. Who the hell are you? I'm Jake Chen, Sarah's brother, the one you made her cut out of her life 7 years ago. Remember me? Marcus's throat went dry. I don't know what. Where's my sister? She's asleep. You need to leave. This is private property, and I'll call the police? Jake smiled without humor. Go ahead. Call them. Let's have them see what you did to her tonight. Marcus's face shifted. The bravado cracked. I don't know what she told you, but she didn't have to tell me much. I could hear in her voice. Could hear what 7 years of you has done to her. Jake stepped closer. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to step aside. I'm going to get my sister. And you're going to let her leave without saying a single word. Understand? You can't just, I can. I am. The only question is whether you're stupid enough to try stopping me. Marcus looked past Jake at the wall of bikers behind him. Some of them were older, gray in their beards. Some were younger, all muscle and tattoos. All of them looked like they'd been through things Marcus couldn't imagine. And all of them were waiting for an excuse. She's my wife, Marcus said weakly. She was your victim. Not anymore. Jake pushed past him into the house. Sarah, It's Jake. You can come out now. The bathroom door opened slowly. Sarah emerged, and the sight of her made Jake's hands curl into fists. Her face was bruised, her eyes swollen, her lips split. She was holding her ribs like they hurt to breathe. Jesus Christ, Sarah. She started crying the moment she saw him. Jake crossed the room and pulled her into a careful hug, mindful of her injuries. I've got you. You're safe now. Let's get you out of here. Marcus found his voice. You can't just take her. This is kidnapping. Jake turned, and something in his expression made Marcus take a step back. You put your hands on my sister. You isolated her from her family. You beat her for 7 years. And you think you get an opinion now? You think you have rights? I'm calling the police. Please do. I'd love to explain to them why 35 bikers showed up at 3 a.m. I'd love to show them what you did to Sarah's face. But we both know you won't because you're a coward, and cowards like you only hit women when no one's watching. Reaper appeared in the doorway. He was 6'5", covered in tattoos, with a beard down to his chest and eyes that had seen too much violence to be intimidated by a suburban bully. We good in here, brother? Yeah, get Sarah to the bike. I'll grab some of her things. Reaper held out his hand to Sarah. Come on, darling. Let's get you outside. Sarah let him lead her toward the door. As she passed Marcus, she stopped. For 7 years, she'd been too afraid to look him in the eye, too beaten down to have a voice. Not anymore. I'm leaving, she said quietly. Don't try to find me. Don't call me. Don't come near me. If you do, they'll come back. And next time, they won't be this nice. Marcus's face twisted with rage and humiliation. But surrounded by bikers and facing the brother he'd tried to erase from Sarah's life, he could do nothing but stand there and watch her control evaporate. Sarah walked out of that house for the last time, down the steps, past 35 bikers who parted for her like honor guards. Someone had brought a leather jacket, Maria's probably, and draped it over Sarah's shoulders against the cold morning air. Jake came out behind her carrying a hastily packed bag. He stopped at the door and looked back at Marcus. If I ever hear you've contacted her, if I ever see you near her or her family, if you so much as send her an email, I'll come back. And I won't knock politely. Are we clear? Marcus didn't answer. Jake didn't need him to. As they walked toward the bikes, neighbors had emerged fully now, standing on porches, watching the strange scene unfold. An elderly woman across the street called out, "Is everything okay?" Reaper smiled at her, a surprisingly gentle expression from such a rough-looking man. "Everything's fine now, ma'am. Just helping a young lady leave a bad situation. Sorry for the noise." The woman looked at Sarah's battered face and seemed to understand. She nodded, went back inside. Jake helped Sarah onto the back of his bike. She wrapped her arms around her brother's waist and pressed her face against his back, crying silently. "Hold on tight," he said gently. "Let's take you home." 35 motorcycles started up simultaneously, the roar echoing through the pre-dawn neighborhood. They pulled away in formation, leaving Marcus standing alone in his doorway, his perfect facade cracked forever, his victim finally free. By the time the sun came up, Sarah was at Jake and Maria's house, showered, bandaged, safe. Maria had made tea and breakfast, while Sarah told him everything. 7 years of abuse, fear, isolation. "I'm so sorry," Sarah kept saying. "I should have listened to you. I should have called sooner." Jake shook his head. "You called when you were ready. That's what matters. But 7 years are over now. You're here. You're safe. And we're going to make sure you stay that way." "What if he comes looking for me?" "He won't. Men like Marcus are only brave when they're bigger and stronger than their target. Faced with consequences, they're cowards. But if he's stupid enough to try, he'll find 35 reasons not to." Sarah managed a weak laugh. "You brought a lot of backup. That's what family does. That's what the club does. We protect our own." Maria reached across the table and took Sarah's hand. "You're staying here for as long as you need. We got a guest room, and honestly, we'd love to have you. Jake's been worried about you for 7 years. I have," Jake admitted, "every day. I kept hoping you'd call. Kept checking to make sure Marcus hadn't." He couldn't finish the sentence. "I'm sorry I shut you out." Stop apologizing. You survived. That's what matters. Over the next few weeks, Sarah began to rebuild. She filed for divorce with the help of a lawyer recommended by the club, someone who specialized in domestic violence cases, and worked pro bono for families of Iron Wolves members. Marcus, facing the prospect of assault charges and a very public divorce that would expose his abuse, agreed to everything Sarah wanted. He signed the papers, gave her a settlement that would help her start over, and disappeared from her life completely. Sarah moved into her own apartment after 2 months, but Jake helped her pick one in a building where 3 other Iron Wolves members lived. She was never alone, never unprotected. She started therapy, started healing, started remembering who she'd been before Marcus, before the fear, before 7 years of walking on eggshells, and she reconnected with her parents, who'd been waiting 7 years for their daughter to come back to them. 6 months after that 3 a.m. phone call, Sarah attended her first Iron Wolves family event, a barbecue at the clubhouse. She was nervous, worried these rough-looking men would judge her for staying with Marcus so long, for being weak, for needing to be rescued. Instead, she found acceptance. Many of the members or their partners had their own stories of survival, addiction, abuse, homelessness, violence. They understood that strength wasn't never falling down. It was getting back up. It was making that call when you were ready. Reaper's wife, Christine, pulled Sarah aside during the barbecue. "I was you," Christine said quietly. 12 years ago. Different man, same story. Reaper's brother found me bleeding in a parking lot and brought me to the club. They protected me until I could protect myself. Really? These men? They look scary. Hell, some of them are scary. But they're also the most loyal, protective people you'll ever meet. Your family now, Sarah. That means something here. Sarah looked around the gathering, bikers and their partners, children running around, people laughing and eating and living without fear. This rough, intimidating motorcycle club had become her sanctuary. "Thank you," Sarah said, "for telling me that. Thank you for being brave enough to call your brother. A lot of women don't make it out. You did." A year after leaving Marcus, Sarah got a job as a counselor at a women's shelter. She used her experience to help other women find their way out of abusive situations, to recognize the patterns she'd missed, to make the call before it was too late. She also started volunteering with a program the Iron Wolves had established, a network of safe houses and emergency contacts for people escaping domestic violence. The club used their intimidating presence for good, showing up when women needed to leave dangerous situations, providing protection when legal systems moved too slowly. "We're not vigilantes," Jake explained when Sarah asked about the program. "We don't hurt anyone. We just make sure abusers understand there are consequences. Most of them are cowards. They back down when confronted." Sarah thought about Marcus's face when he'd seen 35 bikers on his lawn. Jake was right. Without the safety of privacy, without the power imbalance, Marcus had been nothing. 2 years after that night, Sarah stood in front of a room full of domestic violence survivors, telling her story. She talked about isolation, about control, about the moment she realized she had to leave or die. And she talked about making one phone call that changed everything. "I was ashamed to call my brother," she said. "I'd push him away. I'd chosen my abuser over my family. I thought I didn't deserve help. But when I finally called, do you know what he said? He said, 'I'm coming right now, and I'm not coming alone.' Within an hour, 35 men showed up at my house at 3 a.m. They didn't ask questions. They didn't judge me. They just came. Because that's what family does. That's what real strength looks like. Not the kind that tears people down, but the kind that lifts them up." After the talk, women lined up to thank her, to share their own stories, to ask for advice. One woman, maybe 25 with bruises barely covered by makeup, approached last. "I don't have a biker brother," she said quietly. "I don't have anyone." Sarah took her hand. "You have me. And I know 35 people who'd show up for you if you needed them. That's what we do now. We're the backup for people who think they have nowhere to turn." The woman started crying. Sarah hugged her and gave her a card. The Iron Wolves emergency hotline, the women's shelter number, her own cell phone. Call anytime, day or night. You don't have to do this alone. 5 years after leaving Marcus, Sarah stood beside her brother in Iron Wolves Charity Ride, an annual event raising money for domestic violence programs. Hundreds of bikers from multiple clubs participated, riding through the city in formation, their engines roaring like thunder. Jake looked at his sister, healthy now, strong, her smile genuine for the first time in years. "You doing okay?" "Better than okay. I'm happy. Actually happy." "Good. You deserve that." "Jake, thank you for not giving up on me, for coming when I called." "Sarah, I would have come any night for 7 years straight if you called. You're my sister. There's no circumstance where I wouldn't show up for you." Sarah thought about the woman she'd been, afraid, isolated, convinced she deserved the abuse. And she thought about the woman she'd become, a counselor, an advocate, someone who helped others find their strength, all because of one phone call at 2:47 in the morning. All because 35 bikers showed up at 3 a.m. and reminded a coward that there are consequences. All because family, whether blood or chosen, means showing up when it matters most. The ride began, hundreds of motorcycles roaring to life, their sound echoing through the city. Sarah rode beside her brother, wind in her hair, free in ways she'd never been with Marcus. And somewhere in a different city, Marcus Fletcher heard about the charity ride on the news, saw his ex-wife's face in the coverage, saw her laughing and confident beside the bikers he tried to keep her from. He changed the channel and tried to forget, but he never could. Every night, he still heard the sound of those 35 motorcycles pulling up to his house at 3 a.m., still saw those hard faces staring at him, still felt the humiliation of being powerless, of being exposed for what he really was. That sound would haunt him forever, as it should, because some promises are kept at midnight. Some rescue missions happen at 3 a.m. Some families show up on motorcycles with thunder in their engines and protection in their hearts. And some phone calls change everything. If this story touched you, subscribe to The Healing Narrative for more true stories about courage, survival, and the people who show up when you need them most. Drop a comment telling us where you're watching from, and if you've ever had someone show up for you when you needed it. Hit that like button if you believe domestic violence survivors deserve our support, protection, and belief. Share this with someone who might need to know that help is just one phone call away, that they're not alone, that there are people who will come, who will stand between them and danger, who will help them find freedom. Because that's what heroes do. Sometimes they wear leather vests and ride motorcycles. Sometimes they show up at 3 a.m. And sometimes they're the family you thought you'd lost forever, waiting for you to call, ready to come running the moment you do.
We need to address the serious issue of domestic violence in our community. It affects us all, and it's time we take real steps to support victims.